Hi, I'm Coach Amber. Welcome to the Meet RX Success Story podcast. And today we have a special guest, Steve, with us, and he's going to tell us about his carnivore journey. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Amber.
I hope you're doing well today. Okay, so let's get started. I want to hear about how you were prior to starting carnivore. Can you kind of tell us, like, if you were having any health issues or any problems that, and give us a little bit of background.
Okay. I had decades of digestion problems from very poor diet habits, huge junk food eater all my life. And they chronically kept getting worse as the years went on. And my digestion and sleep problems, very poor sleep, no more than 2 to 4 hours of sleep for a few decades. And then besides the digestion and sleep issues and allergy issues, of course, chronic fatigue syndrome, then I started to get, as I got older, more physical symptoms. And they turned into just chronic tension, muscle spasms in my body. Got diagnosed that I needed a hip replacement, was walking dysfunctionally, having trouble doing a normal walking stride. Then started developing chronic back pain, L4, L5, continuously got worse to the point where I'd seen easily over half a dozen orthopedic surgeons, and 5 out of 6 said that I needed hip replacement, and also I had spinal stenosis, L4, L5, with not being able to do nothing about it as far as they said rehab or physical rehabilitation wouldn't help it. And same thing, I tried all different kinds of drugs, anti-inflammatories, and none of them gave me any relief. And I was at the point where I was in chronic pain all day, couldn't walk, still barely able to do my daily movement routines as far as going to a store, like constant burn in sciatica on my right side. And again, on top of that, with all my diet restrictions and incredibly poor sleep, I felt I was on my way to getting something even chronically more or worse than that. And just misery index was very high, very high.
I can understand a lot of that. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, before we get into the improvements, can you kind of give us an idea of how you implemented the carnivore diet? Like maybe what did you eat? How did you go about it? And did you have any issues when you transitioned?
I was on a pretty strict diet at that time. Like, I really stopped eating junk food for the most part. Stayed away from sugary drinks. So I think my transition wasn't as bad as I believe with people that didn't have as clean a diet that was there. So the symptoms were not as bad, but I did get symptoms like again, I already had stopped eating dairy. What else? think at that time I was drinking only water, but again, this carnivore diet intrigued me so much, so I just went to, I think, eggs, fish, beef. I think that was basically it. And I'd say probably for the next 5 or 6 days, um, I felt a much deeper fatigue, and I label it as a die off, or it's another good word. I forget what it was called, but can't think of it right now off the top of the head. But I call it die off symptoms, which I actually somewhat welcomed because it was something different that was going on in my body, and I didn't necessarily label it as bad right away. So I was like, something's happening, something different is going on. And then after 5 or 6 uh, days, I saw a significant improvement where my symptoms went down like, I'd say at least 50%, at least 50%. And they continue to get better. And so those are the symptoms I experienced on transitioning from there to a carnivore diet. And of course, I kept refining the diet as the months went on. Do you want me to talk about that a little bit more, or?
Sure, sure. And kind of give us an idea maybe of what you were actually eating. Like, did you stick with just beef? Did you have a variety? If you could kind of give us just a little bit of that.
Yes. And so again, basically my diet when I first started was eggs. Maybe I might fry them up in butter or in olive oil, or hard-boiled eggs, a lot of salmon, definitely hamburger, definitely ribeye. I think that was the basis of my main part of my diet. Probably some shrimp that was in there. But then, again, as far as listening to interviews and other things, people were saying that they were doing better on strictly beef. And same thing, like I was probably on that diet of fish and eggs and beef for 6 months. And I'm like, okay, this kind of felt like it's leveled off a little bit. And though I've had big improvements, like I was able to exercise again, I was able to go to the gym and those kinds of things, I was like, I'm still haven't fully recovered. And so, Sean and the Andersons and the Petersons were talking about just the beef diet, and I went to just beef, and I had another significant improvement of eating just beef. And then I got a little further in with the Andersons, and the Andersons talked about how powerful beef fat was. So I started ordering and making my own pemmican, and staying with fatty hamburger meat and the fattiest ribeyes I could find. And I improved again. Also, especially eating pemmican, I did get die-off symptoms from that. That was incredibly powerful for my system. And again, out of what Joe Anderson told me, that beef fat is one of the most powerful antimicrobials out there. And I'm guessing that it really helps a lot with bacterial infections, candida, and those kinds of things. And again, I got real significant improvements. And that's basically where I've been now, I think, for over 2 years, though I'm slowly starting to expand my diet back towards a little bit more of a ketogenic diet, and experimenting with a few other things now currently. But my diet will always be, goodness, easily 70% beef products for the rest of my life, probably. I don't see that change.
That is really awesome. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and I totally agree. I think we all have to continually evolve and find what works for us at a particular point in time in our lives. And I think what you're doing is excellent because you don't know until you experiment. I mean, you can listen to whoever you want to listen to, but until you experience it with your own body, you just don't know. So
Yes.
thank you for that. Okay, so now for the best part, I can't wait to hear about the improvements that have happened. So if you could kind of fill us in on all the issues you talked about and how you're doing today.
Yes. Well, I'll try to take them off one at a time. I'd say my sleep, I probably, it's still broken. It's not where it should be, but I probably sleep 6 or 7 hours a night in two parts. It's usually broken up. Usually sleep anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. Uh, my first shift, then I wake up for an hour or two, and then I usually go back to bed after that, and I get like another 3 hours sleep, which is incredibly big improvement for me. And I feel much more rested when I get up in the morning. Like vitality is much better. Um, my hip dysfunction and walking has improved easily 75 to 80%, and I'm fairly confident that it'll be fully in back to 100%. Um, Again, I just feel like I had a lot of muscle toxicity, we'll call it, in the body that stops soft tissue from functioning correctly, and from decades of putting junk food in my body that I feel is reversing. Um, I'm in no resting pain anymore. Resting pain is completely gone. Lower back is improved tremendously. Still working on getting strength in there, but my flexibility, like I couldn't swing a golf club 10 times before I went on a Carnivore tire. If I swung a golf club 10 times, my body would have been aching for probably, I'd say, 3 days. And now I can probably play golf every day if I want to. That was there. I've had just ridiculous improved flexibility and pliability in my back and my muscles that are there. And what else? So I said walking's been excellent. And again, I believe my diet is expanding. Like I'm back to eating hard-boiled eggs again, where I feel I was getting some kind of inflammatory reaction from that in the past. And I believe that's not the case anymore. I started eating peanuts again. Those are like, I'm just looking for some kind of quick protein food to eat that doesn't take much preparation still about where I'm at. I'm putting lemons in my diet from that aspect. Again, my strength and vitality is better than it's been in easily over 3 decades. That's there. And I'm trying to think of any other significant improvements. We talked about my pain, arthritis.
Digestion?
Yeah, again, it's improving. It's a process. Like I feel that's still one of my complaints is that a lot of times I eat, especially if I've exercised intensely and then I go eat after that, feel the immediate need to go to bed. And I feel like my body only has so much energy, or from some other doctors that I found interesting, has only so much oxygen to digest the food and those kinds of things in that kind of process, that my system needs to shut down and go to sleep. That's still one of my complaints at where I am right now. But I can even do a little bit of running, which I couldn't even dream of doing. Again, no sciatica symptoms, and God, tension in my body is so much better. I am so much more relaxed, and man, I just had decades of this stress that to me was a strangulation of my body that is letting go, and it keeps getting better and better. And so yeah, I'm a huge proponent of meat, especially fatty beef, and learning what works for your body.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your success story. It's going to make a big difference. The more people we get to tell their story, the better. So I do very much appreciate you coming on. And again, thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Steve.
Bye.